So I fucked up because it's been so long since we've done
It's been like over 2 months. I
since
had to
we've done a
scroll down a
Q&A
long time.
that I forgot that we normally have a special guest. So I didn't ask anybody because I remembered last night that we did that, but I do have a special guest. Are you ready?
Everybody who's listening, go tune in on YouTube immediately. I want to see the baby.
The baby! Everyone,
Actually, she's gonna be so evil and so good.
everyone, this is Jalapeño. Did the baby. Did the baby.
She's a baby.
Did the baby.
Are you keeping Jalapeno as her name?
Yes. Because it's so like it's part of her origin story at this point.
I know. That's jalapeno? Are you sure?
Okay, so guys, here's what happened. And you need to go look on the YouTube if you normally listen to
She's
us.
so small.
Because you can see how
She's so
tiny she
small,
is.
and you've had her for like a week at this point, so she was smaller than she
Yeah.
is now.
Yeah. And you need to see what a baby she is. So
Just if you're like listening on your ride to work and you're
cool.
driving and you can't listen, she's she's maybe 2 apples tall.
She's
Like
not even 2 pounds. I weighed her.
she's so her entire body is like she's so small. Like I actually can't.
So here's what happened.
Yeah.
So we live out in the country, and I've been waiting for the cat distribution system to bless me, and I have been left
Neglected
wanting.
thus far.
I've been neglected thus far. So I saw this thing where local rescue was saying that like you could apply. I was like, great. I love that idea. I want to adopt a couple cats and give a couple kitties a home. So I call them and they're like, or no, I sent in an application. And I sent an application on Saturday night. On Sunday morning, I get a call. Here, we'll play. On Sunday morning, I get a call, and they're like, "Oh my god, we're so happy that you turned in an application. We have 2 cats that really need a home." And I was like, "Amazing! I would love to take them. Let me just talk to my husband." So I talked to Kyle, and he's like, "Let's do it. Let's go get them right now." And I was like, "Winner, winner." So I called them back, and I was like, "Hey, we would love to take the 2 cats." And they're like, good news, bad news. They're like, one of the cats has been with a foster and it's acclimating really well. And I was like, that's wonderful. I will still take the other one. And they're like, okay, just so you know, she's really spicy. And I'm like,
Spicy as shelter speak for she's mean, is what that means.
I was like, I'm not concerned. I was like, that's fine. We love a strong personality. Like, I don't care if she's spicy. So anyways, we're like, no problem. We'll come get her anyway. And they're like, oh my God, amazing. We'll see you soon. I was like, great, I'll be there in 20 minutes. So I get in the car. We go, load up the kids. We all go. Now we get to the shelter and we're like, hey guys, we're gonna adopt a kitty today. However, she's like kind of feral. She's like a wild kitty. And they're like, okay, mom. So then we go in, we're like, hey, we're here. They're like, okay, no problem. We'll be with you in a few minutes. So then we finally start chatting with them and they're like, again, we just want to let you know, like, she's really spicy. And we've named her Jalapeño. And I'm like, that's cute. Not a problem. And I was like, but I'm expecting at this point a cat who has seen war. Like, I'm expecting a cat that's like missing half an ear, that looks like one of the dragons on Game of Thrones. Okay, like I'm expecting a mean cat.
Literally.
I'm like, that's fine. Kitty still deserves a nice home. So anyway.
Yeah.
They bring over this carrier, and I look in the carrier,
full-size cat carrier.
And it's the smallest little bean. And I'm like, so I like look at them and I'm like, oh, they brought us the wrong cat. Because that's an infant. And they're like, I was like, and so nicely, I'm just kind of like, so how old is Jalapeño? And they're like, yeah, we think like 2 months. And I'm like, oh, it is the right cat. Okay. So I'm like, again, I'm expecting like a feral outdoor cat, and this is a
child.
This is a child.
This infant who's been ripped from its mother.
So I look at Kyle. Kyle looks at me, and we're like, okay, well, thank you.
Okay, why not?
She's ours now, and thank you so much. And yeah, so we left with her.
Take her.
She's not spicy at all. She's a baby. She's just a baby. But yeah, so her name is Jalapeño. She's a complete doll. She's not hissed at us once. She's like just a baby. Yeah. She's just a baby. So anyway, she's very sweet, and we told the rescue that if they have any other cats that show up, to please let us know. Come get them. But yeah. Anyway, now we have a Jalapeño. She's very happy. So here we are. I'm happy for you guys. I told mom and dad you guys got a cat. So, but I broke it to them very gently. Sorry, she's attacking my foot. Yeah. Anyway, so welcome Jalapeño. Jalapeño is our guest. She's the newest resident, or the newest host of the Shelf Wear podcast. Oh my god. Tay and Batman have a cousin. Oh my god, that's so cute. She's just a baby. Anyway, guys, I haven't looked at any of the questions. I've looked at the questions. You guys, remember last week when you were like, there's no question. There can't possibly be any questions. And I was like, that's funny. There were over 30 questions. So I did see one question, and it was, what do you guys do to prepare for each episode? And yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's do that. Because my answer is barely anything. Hardly anything. At the beginning, I used to rewatch I would text her and be like, what timestamp do you think we're going to get to? Like, you're the master planner here. And she would tell me, generally about 10 minutes of television is what we get for an episode. And so I would literally just watch it once, like right before we record. And that is quite literally all I do. I'm just here for the vibes. Yeah. So yes, one of the questions we got was like, what do we do to prepare for a podcast? So Lizzy brings vibes. And we love that. We love that. What I typically do is I typically watch. So one, I've seen the series a few times, but whatever scenes we're covering, I will typically watch through once, and I note down the dialogue, and then I watch it through again, and I pay attention to body language and like lighting and other things like that. So I typically watch it at least 2 or 3 times before the episode, and I take a lot of notes. So that's where you see me looking off camera as I'm looking at my notes. But yeah, so that's typically what we do. So, and then, yeah, I'll typically I typically know before we get into the episode prep, like kind of about where we're going to get based on like pacing of how long I think scene is going to take. Mm-hmm. What's she doing down there? She's got a piece of paper. But yeah. So that's what we do. So, and then I typically love Lizzie. Now we're going to get to this point. You've also seen the show a lot. So I
At
think
this
you,
point,
yeah,
I don't even rewatch the
yeah.
episodes anymore because at this point I've seen it. Because what am I gonna do? I'm gonna watch 10 minutes of the show and then turn it off. No, you inevitably watch more of it, if not the full
I,
episode.
yeah.
And then at this point, it's just, and also just like the number of times I probably watched specific parts of specific episodes before we even started recording the pod.
Hmm.
Like, there's no more, like, it lives in my brain now. Like, I don't need to watch it. I can close my eyes and turn my TV on inside.
Yeah. I rewatch because I'm doing like a close analysis. Like I'm really watching
Hmm.
to analyze it versus like watching for pure enjoyment. But I do typically end up watching a little bit for
I don't know
enjoyment
how to
afterwards.
watch for anything but enjoyment,
But
but that's
that's what
fine.
we typically do. So that's how we get ready for an episode of the pod. But yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway. But yeah, so speaking of the pod, we're here. Well, this is our Q&A episode for episode 5. We will go through episodes 1 through 5, questions you guys sent in. You guys sent in more than 30 questions, which I love. I love you guys for that. We're going to try and get through as many as we can. Some of them I think we'll probably touch on in episode 6, so I'm going to leave them for that. But thank you guys again so much for sending in all of these great questions. But before we get into that, first, we got to hit the intro. So, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, this is the Shelf Aware podcast. I'm Ren,
And I would agree.
and we are two lit obsessed sisters who like to talk about our favorite books, our favorite TV shows, our favorite movies, and analyze them in egregious levels of detail. We now also both have cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming. Anyway,
She's your
we,
familiar.
huh,
Sorry.
she is my familiar. It's a little baby. It's a baby. Anyway, this week on the pod, we are getting into the Q&A listener questions. Thank you guys again so much for sending them in. Couple reminders is we do tend to focus primarily on the show. We have a couple questions comparing the show and the book, so we'll talk a little bit about that, but we do tend to stay pretty close to the show. The other thing, as you guys know, is that this is a spoiler-free zone for the long game. But everything else
Fair game, guys.
is fair game.
Fair game.
Fair game. So, anyway,
What's the first
let's
one?
let's get to it. Let's get cracking. Okay, so the first one is sent in by, I'm going to say Jacques Chap. Thank you for sending this in. It says, episode 5 is packed with huge emotional moments, but the one that stayed with me was the Russian monologue, Ilya speaking in Russian to Shane, knowing Shane couldn't understand the words. Do you think the power of that scene comes from what Shane doesn't understand, or from the fact that for the first time, Ilya lets himself say everything out loud? I'd love to hear your take.
Do we think it's powerful because Shane doesn't understand what Ilya's saying and he's just very, like, intently listening anyway, or because of what Ilya's saying? Is that what the
Yeah.
question is?
Yeah, I think like where does the emotional impact of that scene come from?
I think it comes from both. It
I
can't
agree.
not come from both.
Yeah.
Because, like, the like if we're talking about somebody being down bad, when you're listening to somebody speak a language and you have no idea, but like my ears are getting red thinking about it, and you're just so infatuated with their voice and what they're saying that it doesn't matter that you can't understand. If you were to watch that scene without getting the whole Shane saying, "Well, I won't understand it, but you should tell me anyway," you would absolutely believe that Shane understands everything that Ilya is saying because of like the look on his face and like how
Hmm.
locked in he is. And I think there's something really special about that. And then it's like it's called, what is it called? Um, it's called like miraculous. I don't know, but these two teenage superheroes, and they're each in love with the others like alter ego. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they like each other, but they don't realize that the other person is who
It's
they
it's
are.
it's mutual, but they're both idiots.
But they're both idiots. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's not that they're both idiots, but it's just like
Yes.
when you're
One
what,
of
like
my
the audience.
favorite tropes, by the way. Like mutual pining, but they don't realize
Yes.
it. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And the part about that show that is like so agonizing to watch, but it is so entertaining, is that you as the audience get to see both sides of it, and you can see how close they get to figuring it out, but like they're
Hmm.
just kind of missing it. And I think that that's also really important for the emotional poignancy of this scene, is that like Ilya is experiencing it from Ilya's point of view. He doesn't know how Shane's reacting. He can't see Shane's face.
Yeah.
Shane is listening to Ilya, doesn't understand what he's saying, can't see Ilya's face. Um, and us as the audience, we're the only ones who get to hear what Shane is hearing and also be able to understand what Ilya is saying at the same time we're watching Shane's face. So I
Yeah.
think that is what, like, we are in the know about what's going on, and the others, those who are not to some extent.
Yeah. I think there is such like, it almost feels like we are like bearing witness this moment, right? But I think that there's
Yeah.
that element, and I think there's also this thing where like I think the show does a really good job, and I think in the book, Shane and Ilya's relationship feels like a little bit more of like a gradual build. And I think one of the other questions asked this too about like there's a lot of like dialogue scenes or conversations like when Ilya is in Russia or just some other moments of dialogue where they're talking a little bit more and you're seeing I think a little bit more of a slow build of the relationship in the book versus like in the show the pacing is really moving. And I think that there isn't time for a lot of extra dialogue or extra scenes that aren't doing some heavy lifting. And so I think there is in even more so in the book. I think in the show there is this feeling of like just the dam breaking and
Mhm.
this moment where Ilya just can't keep it anymore. And
Mhm.
not to say that isn't in the book, but I think the intensity of it is even more so in the show, where it's
Mhm.
just this moment where like the dam breaks and he just can't keep it in anymore and he just starts talking. And
Mhm.
I think there is something so this trope of like the stoic character or the misunderstood character finally getting the moment to like tell their story has been hitting since Jane Austen. Okay. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
this is why,
It's
like,
so
it's
it's
so good.
it's
It's
so good, but it's also like you can do it a million different ways, and it is
absolutely.
it
Yeah.
there are like I actually was reading something today, and like I feel like a lot of, I don't want to say like a lot of romance. I don't think, I don't want to say a lot of romances use it, but it's very common in one way or the other, because there's something very special about someone who is trying their very hardest to not show any vulnerability to the outside
Mm-hmm.
world, finding the person that they feel comfortable being vulnerable with.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think that that is what, there's always something about that. Like you want to find somebody who, I don't want, is not necessarily mean on the outside, but like somebody who feels like you're the exception and you're the safe space
Yeah.
and you're their little special gem that they can open up to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, most people want that, or it's attractive.
Yeah, I think there's that. I think there's the emotional vulnerability element of it. I also think there's something about like basically this this person that seems so unbreakable and unflappable and just
Mm,
like has this facade nailed down of like nothing's getting through, and then to hear them basically be like they are the most down bad, they're down on their knees, like
mm-hmm.
they like maybe they didn't fall first but they definitely fell harder,
Fell
and
harder.
just like this
Yeah.
moment where like you get to see like the person that like thought nothing was ever going to take them down is so down
Mhm.
bad, I think is so good. And I think for Ilya, who, because this has been going on for so long, for Ilya to have this cathartic moment where he's just talking, he's finally talking, the significance of this moment is just
Mhm.
huge for so many different reasons. And it's him admitting his feelings for Shane, but also admitting all of this stuff that's been going on with his family that like I also think there's an element of it like of all of these things you kind of want to be true about a character, like you want to like think there's always a reason for people to behave a certain way, or like you always want to kind of get the explanation for why people act a certain way. And so like you
Mhm.
finally get that, you get the reason, you get the explanation, and I think it's just so satisfying. And then on the other hand, I think for Shane, I think it's exactly what you said, where he's like, he's so down bad for Ilya, and he doesn't even need to hear what Ilya, or he doesn't even need to understand what Ilya is saying, because what he understands is that Ilya is bearing his soul to him. And that alone is special enough to make Shane
Mhm.
just be completely lost in it and to understand the significance. And it doesn't matter what Ilya is saying. It's the fact that he's
No.
saying it to Shane. And the fact that he's saying it in the way that he's most comfortable and that he trusts Shane to do it. I mean, this is just like such an emotionally impactful scene for so many reasons. It hits in so many levels that I think I
Mhm.
don't think it is just one thing. I think it's all the things. Like this is really like, not to say that the I'm coming to the cottage isn't a huge moment in the show, but I mean, I think, or in the book either, but I think for me, the monologue, this is the true turning point. There's no going back. This is it. And I think it's because this is the moment they become so much more to each other.
Yeah.
And they have been, but this is the moment they both know.
Yeah. I was talking to someone at work the other day who speaks like 3 or 4 languages fluently. And she speaks Portuguese and
Oh yeah,
Spanish
you were
with.
telling me about her. Yeah.
She's
Hmm.
super sweet,
Yeah.
but she speaks Portuguese and Spanish to some of the students that were around.
Hmm.
And she chooses to, we were talking about it a little bit, and um it's really something, and it's not quite really the same thing because like Shane does not understand what Lily is saying, and he can't speak back to him in Russian. But there is something about speaking in your native tongue that is not, or a tongue that you're more fluent in, or that you're more comfortable in, or a language that is more central to your upbringing.
Yeah.
There's something about speaking in that language that is very comforting
Yeah.
outside of just being able to express yourself better because you know the language better. But it's also like an acknowledgement of like, it's almost like you're saying, like, I see you. It's an
Hmm.
acknowledgement of like, they're your home. You feel comfortable, and this is what I speak when I'm comfortable. And so we have students who like are in our international center that do not get to speak their native language hardly ever, and it's really heartwarming to hear them instigate that with her
Hmm.
and walk up and start speaking. But it's just, you can tell how much it means to them to get to speak their
Yeah.
language. Like
Yeah.
it means so much. And like, she's just a friend that they have on campus. Like
Yeah.
that's all it is. But you can just tell it means so much. And again, like Shane doesn't understand what Ilya is saying and he can't really respond. But aside from Ilya being able to express himself better in Russian, I think that's just gotta feel so like
Yeah.
good and fulfilling to speak his native language to Shane.
Yeah.
Because like those are like two pieces that are like very close to his heart. is where he comes from, and then obviously Shane. But like, I think that that was probably really eye-opening for him to be able to do that.
Well, I think it's like, I think we often talk about like Ilya being able to speak his first language that he's more familiar with, like how much easier that is to your exact point for him. Because I think we talked about during the monologue, just this that means he's not having to translate twice. It's hard enough, I think, to translate often like
Yeah.
what you're feeling into words, but then to have to translate those words again to explain it to someone else is incredibly challenging. But I also think there is a huge component of it's like your native language is not just the language you know best, but it's also the language that was it's not just the language that's easiest for you to speak, it's also the language you first heard. It is your mother tongue. It is
Hmm.
the language your mother spoke to you. It is the one that has been in your ears since you were a baby. It is very familiar. It's comforting. It's there's a
And I think,
home element of it.
yeah, and
And
I think a lot of the time it's the language that you think in, which
yeah,
I think is
yeah,
really important.
yeah.
It's
It's the
what
language you
you're.
talk to yourself in. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean I think and all the more reason why. And this isn't a spoiler. This is because this is just very much something that is important for when as Shane and Ilya move forward. Shane will need to learn Russian because he has a partner whose first language is Russian, and for it is important for Shane to learn to speak Russian so that he can meet Ilya and he can, meet Ilya where he's
Mhm.
at, and when Ilya does have trouble, um, you know, translating his words, that he can, that Shane can help him along with that and meet him where he is, but then also just that level of familiarity for Ilya to get to hear the language that is most familiar to him is also going to be hugely important. So I think this scene is just, I could go on and on about the monologue. I mean, you guys know I can. Lizzie knows I can. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's just such a hugely, hugely important scene for so many different reasons. But yeah, great question. While we're on the topic of the monologue, I think we also did get quite a few questions about the translation. I think on the Q&A, and then also like when we posted the monologue episode, where I think people were wondering whether or not the caption wondering about the captions, and if that what the captions are in the show is what Jacob Tierney first wrote. How subtitles or captions typically work on TV shows or movies is that this is typically handled by a company, because it's not just as simple or as straightforward as like I'm going to take the script and I'm going to match it up to the words or match it up to the scenes on the screen, but it's also they're looking for like things like pacing, they're looking for reading speed, they're looking to like they have to match up the words to what the character is saying in that moment. Actors also tend to ad lib, but they're also applying a lot of things like local dialects. They're making sure that it makes sense for the region that the show was airing in. So the captions or subtitles or translations on a show typically are not a result of the script being translated, or I'm sorry, carried
Mhm.
over into the show. There's companies, there's humans that do this for shows. So now,
Yeah.
that being said, like is it possible that the words on the screen is how Jacob Tierney wrote it? Sure. I think the point, though, that we're trying to make during that episode was that there is no one-to-one translation of anything. Everything is going to get kind of changed slightly due to a lot of different factors. And regardless of whether or not Jacob wrote it exactly like the subtitles that show up in the show, the point is that that's not what Ilya ends up saying. And so what we wanted to do was work off of what Ilya is actually saying in Russian and go off of that. Now, one of the questions that we got was, why do we think that, for example, in like the HBO version, they injected so many extra curse words and stuff like that? And I think that kind of goes back to this thing of like
Mhm.
when these companies or people like translators caption these shows, they will try to sometimes apply like
Mhm.
local colloquialisms or local dialects. And I think in the US, cursing is very common. And so I
It's
think
very common.
it's very common.
Anytime you experience, anytime you experience a strong emotion,
Yeah,
I think very
happy or sad.
common to
Yeah.
test. And I think you would also expect that from somebody with Ilya's disposition.
Yeah.
Like if like people who are a little bit more hot-headed, can be passionate about things, are often likely to cuss, and I don't think it is looked down upon and it has the same taboo as it does in other countries. But I think the goal of adding the cuss words was not to say he was cussing in Russian, but it was to add intensity to English speakers who are reading it, who are used to cussing, and they can then take the intensity that the cuss word gives and understand that Ilya is saying things, but I mean, you can hear the emotion in his voice, you can see it on his face, but I think it adds weight, and there's words for like to do that in every language. I think
Yeah.
cussing is a common one for English in America especially, and I think it would also be very, and like I said, like with his disposition, I think like that is like the easiest way he would in English express himself.
Well, and I
So
think what's
that's
funny
what
is
I
like
say.
in scenes where Ilya is really passionate and he is speaking in English, he does drop the F bomb a lot. Because like
He
there's
be
his
cussing.
that captain's speech where he's like fucking fuck San Francisco. Like when
Yeah.
he does when he is speaking very passionately in English, he often does drop the F bomb. So now I would be curious to hear from our Canadian listeners and friends. Like when the show first came out, I remember there being things where people were saying that the subtitles for between Crave and HBO were different in some cases. So I would actually be interested
Hmm.
to hear from our Canadian listeners. Are there as many F bombs in the Crave translation?
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not sure if cursing is as prevalent in like Canadian culture as it is, I think, in American culture. But so I'd be interested to hear if there's some differences in that way.
Yeah.
But um, and so anyway, so this question too was one of the things said was like, do I wish that we had a completely accurate translation word for word from Russian in the subtitles? I think it's as close. I think
There
it's
is
close.
not,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
Go
we
ahead.
talked about this last time, is like when you're looking at something like this, Jacob speaks English. He's writing in English. It then has to get translated by somebody who, like, translation done by a human being is subjective. It's up to the interpretation of the translator.
Mm-hmm.
Is being translated into Russian, and it is then being translated
Needed
back into
back into
English
English. Yeah,
by whoever's working at HBO doing it, or whoever's
yeah,
working at Crave. And we've talked about this last time. There is not a one for one translation. Every time you translate something from one language to the next, another little piece of it gets lost. So it's hard. I don't think there's ever going to exist like a complete one for one translation of what Jacob wanted that to be, because Jacob thinks in English, and Ilya is saying this in Russian.
yeah. So I think what's there is close, and I think even Vic says in her translation, like she's like she doesn't have an issue with the HBO translation or the Crave translation or whatever. I think that
Mhm.
but what she's basically doing is looking at it as someone who's very fluent in both English and Russian and saying like
Mhm.
here is the closest it can kind of get.
Yeah.
And I think too it's just something really interesting, I think, to keep in mind, like when you're looking at subtitles and captions, not just for Heated Rivalry, but for other shows, is that like there is this really interesting there's a lot of science behind it, actually. And I actually read up a little bit on this after people were asking questions. So I thought it was interesting. But like there's a lot of decisions that go into it in terms of like they're trying to make sure that what they're putting in the captions and the subtitles are translating well in terms of like what the actors are saying in that moment, but also like the emotions. They're also in some cases having to shorten things down because the
Mhm.
scene is super fast paced, and that is a tool to help. It's an accessibility tool, so they want it to be like very easily understood and read. So it's really interesting, and even just some of the choices they make of by
Yeah.
region and by dialect and stuff like that. So anyway,
Yeah.
we got a couple questions about that, so just want to touch on that briefly. I think it will be incredibly interesting because Jacob is there is that book coming out of the scripts for Heated Rivalry, and I think it'll be really interesting to see in that book if the monologue is written in there in Russian, or if it's written in there with an English translation, and maybe what Jacob originally wrote. And I think it'll be really interesting to compare. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I think, again, kind of going back to that thing of translations, there's so, because we don't as humans just communicate with words. We communicate, there's a lot of things that goes into our communication. There's a lot of like knowledge of just what, like, cultural norms, there's colloquialisms, there's all of this stuff. And so I think that's one of the things that makes translations really fascinating. It's also how, like, you can get like 50 different versions of a historic text based on who's interpreting it and all this kind of stuff. So I think I don't know, I just think it's really fascinating. But yeah, we got a couple questions on that, so I want to touch on it briefly. But okay, moving on through our questions. Here's one that I thought was really fun. Autumn Riley, 05 said, "How do you imagine the rest of the 'I'm coming to the cottage' phone call went? How about the moments we don't see at the All-Stars game? Practice, Shane and Ilya in the locker room together, shy, flirty glances around their team, all like," and so basically, like, they're talking about like all those hidden moments. I hadn't thought about like Shane and Ilya, because they're on the same team, like being in the locker room. Like, I think there is so many moments that we don't see during the All-Star game, and could be so cute. Yeah.
We see what happens immediately after Ilya says, "I'm coming to the cottage," but it cuts out after that. If I were Shane, I am like have you heard one of those like you're so shocked that you kind of like giggle scream a little bit? That's what I would do, and I would like slam my phone shut. I would hang up on him.
If I'm
I'd be
Shane,
like, no fucking way.
So this is so funny. So okay, so if I'm Shane, I'm like beelining down to my room, or like the closest room with a door, because he's staying at his parents' house. He's sleeping on the couch, so he doesn't have a room. I'm going to the closest room with a door. I'm shutting the door. I'm going into another room. I'm going as far back in this room as I can, and I'm whisper talking
in the closet.
And I'm like, I am locking down details, because I know that Ilya.
I'm looking. I've got my team's calendar pulled up. What days are good for you?
I'm like, okay,
what days and times?
I've already looked up a flight, and this is it will leave your house. Like, if I'm Shane,
do you have a preferred airline? Like, what's going on here?
If I'm Shane, and I do have some Shane tendencies, and I know Shane Hollander, I feel like Shane's like, okay, let's do this. Like, okay, what day are you coming?
Just sit back and relax, baby. I'm taking care of everything for you.
I think
I'll
he's
have my
like,
people call your people.
Locking in details immediately. I think he's like, I'm not letting this. If he's up for this, I'm locking this shit down right now. We're planning an itinerary. I know when I'm going to pick him up from the airport. I'm already formulating a grocery list in my mind. Like, I think Shane is locking details down. As far as the other moments of like at the All-Star game, I think we do get more moments of them at the All-Star game in the book, but I love a sneaking around trope, and I think like them basically finally having an excuse to be in each other's proximity all the time, and having that excuse again would be so good. And I think we see hints of it. I mean, we see Ilya take advantage of it immediately, of like, he finally has an excuse to be around Shane, and he absolutely capitalizes on it. But there are certain universes and worlds that I wish to never leave, and the more bonus content that would be put out, I would consume all of it. And if Jacob Tierney wanted to release another 6 hours of bonus footage just of cute Shane and Ilya moments, I would watch it. I'm going to say that right now.
I would, and this is something that I was going to bring up during the translation thing, is that I'm an avid anime watcher. The translations are always funky for those, because Asian languages and English don't mesh. But in most good slice of life animes, which you would love, because a slice of life anime is just like the day-to-day actions of two people. Like, it's not really like, there is like things that are going on that are pushing the plot along, but it is purely just following these people through their daily lives. And a lot of times they're like school. There's a there's always the same like four tropes in every season. They go to a summer festival together, they watch the fireworks. Gold. And I'm picturing Shane in all of these areas. One of them gets sick and the other has to come take care of them. That's a must.
Love. I love it.
That's a must.
I
And
love a
it's a,
hurt comfort.
I know. And
I
it's
love
just
a hurt comfort.
but when you're watching a new show, you're like, it's coming. It's coming. You know it's coming. There's a couple other that are just like shoo-ins. Like you know they're gonna happen, and it's just like a romance book. You're like, how are they gonna do it? You're
Yeah.
sitting there like, how is this gonna happen? Give me a slice of life Shane and Ilya anime,
Oh my God.
please.
Please. I
I
love
would
that, like,
consume it. I would
and that's
consume it.
and
Sorry.
there's so much good fanfic, I know, like that. And also there's like people on threads who will just do little slice of life moments, and I love
Mm,
that shit. I eat that
yep.
shit up with a spoon because for me I agree with
That's
you.
peak.
That's the good shit. And I think I've had like my writing described before as like I tend to write like kind of slice of life as like there's normally like there's stuff happening, but like
Mm-hmm.
for me I think that some of the best moments in couples are the quiet ones. Like, and it's the small gestures, and
1000%.
it's yes, like the grand gestures are amazing, but it's all the little stuff in between that like is the stuff that is going to make the difference of whether or not a couple actually makes it. And I love this.
Is
I
it,
love love
yeah.
and quiet moments for
Is
sure.
it Ilya saying, I'm coming to the cottage, or is it saying, she would have loved you like I loved you?
So and
Okay. It's the quiet, intimate moments. Okay.
and speaking of, there is a listener, and I they reminded me, so thank you so much. They asked a while ago if I think that Shane or Ilya is more romantic. And I want to hold that question until we get into episode 6 because I want to talk about love languages, but we're going to talk about that in episode 6. So I'm not going to answer today. I'm so sorry. They've been so patient. But you will not have to wait much longer because we're going to talk about like in the beginning of episode 6. But I think there are so many different ways to show love. And
Are you like an acts of service girl?
of course, I'm an ex of one because
No,
I'm
I know that's how you give, but like, is that how you prefer to
this,
receive?
I,
Is it the
yes.
same?
Yeah, because I'm a tired, overwhelmed mom.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of different ways to show love. And I want to, so anyway, when we get to episode 6, I want to talk about all the different ways that Shane and Ilya show that they love each other because they both do it in slightly different ways, but they're both valid.
Mm-hmm.
They're both romantic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. Oh, one other
Next
thing
question.
before we leave the monologue. This is not a question, but Midnight Kitty says, how about when right before Ilya's monologue, he's in darkness, and instead of seeing straight light with Shane, we see the sliver of light under Shane's hotel room door. Ilya's reaching out to the tiniest sliver of light he can get, and Shane keeps giving him more. The shot choices in the show are unmatched. I can't get enough of these two.
How dare you?
This is Midnight Kitty, you and I.
That's fucked up.
I
And I
love
could have
that.
gone my whole life without knowing that. Let me
And you
tell
know
you.
what? Thank you. Thank you. Um, Jalapeno can't decide whether they want to be up or down. Okay. Love that. Love that insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. I missed that. I will see that. I will watch that now every time.
She's gonna go back and watch it.
Another one also kind of similarly on the light. Says he says, "Love your pod. You've made me pay a lot of attention to the use of light in certain scenes. Do you ever notice in episode 5 when when Ilya and Sveta are talking on his bed ahead of All Stars surrounded by dim lighting, she brings up Shane while he's busy deflecting. The close shots of just him show there's a shaft of reflecting light on the chrome of hardware of one of the lamps on his side of the bed. By the way, 3 pairs of bedside lamps, Ilya, really? It is reflecting a beam of light directly towards his heart, or coming out from up to interpretation. May be accidental by production, but it always sticks out to me.
Guys, what the fuck? Can we
Oh
calm
my God.
down?
No. Okay. We got a couple questions like this about Svetlana and people asking how we feel Svetlana feels, basically. So it says a Svetlana question, the I know you love me, but not how you love Jane is so tender. Are we sure she's not a bit heartbroken about that? Like they had a if we were still single by a certain age, we obviously end up together situation that she knows is now forever off the table and it stings. We had a couple questions like this about like, do we think that maybe Svetlana has feelings for Ilya? I think maybe.
Because I'm sure she does a little bit. Like
Yeah.
there's a very thin line. I don't want to say a thin line, but like love is love, right? And
Yeah.
like she loves him, and I'm sure there is some part of her that is like, what if? But I also think that their connection is so deep and genuine that that love is not significantly changed by the fact that they are not together romantically.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's one of those things where I think they've known each other forever. I think they genuinely do love each other. And I think that they know each other better than probably anyone else in their life knows them. I think it would be really hard for you to love someone like that and then also be sleeping with them and for the lines not to get a little bit blurry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not to say that that can't be done, but I think it would be hard for it not to be a little bit blurry. And I think that there could very much be part of her that is like, if he did feel this way about me and, then, maybe we would work out and maybe we, if,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's very possible. I think the thing that's very admirable about or I don't even know if admirable is the right word. I think to your point, I think she understands that even though she does maybe love him in a different way than he loves her, that to her it's not she understands that he's she's not his person. And I think she understands that um I think she probably understands on some level that he's also not her person. And I think that you can oh my God, jalapeno. I think that, I think she understands that it's like that, no matter how she feels about him, like that she might feel about him romantically, but like at the end of the day, she loves him. He's her friend, and she would much rather him be in her life the way he is than
Mm-hmm.
try to push it and not
Mm-hmm.
him not be in her life at all. So I'm sure that there is probably a part of her that like maybe wishes it could be different, but I think also Svetlana is probably Svetlana is also a confident queen, and I can also very much see her being like not wanting somebody that doesn't want her the same way.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
so I think, I think there's definitely probably a part of her that, especially the way because she says, but you don't want me. Not like, well, we don't like each other like that. She says, but you don't want me. Where it's like she's kind of already reached a state of acceptance of like that he just doesn't feel that way about her. And she's okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
he's her friend and she wants him to be happy and she does love him. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And so I think she kind of has a stance of like, probably a little bit like my feelings are my own. That's for me to deal with. And, Ilya's never promised her more or anything like that. Like he's never led her on. And, so I think that I think she's okay with it. I think she knows that she is not his person and vice versa. And I think she's okay with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I gotta go
Hey.
put. Okay. Next question is a bit of a deep dive into David and Una watching the skip scene, especially David taking notice of Shane before he gets up to pick up Ilya's call. David character analysis, please. You're a big David fan.
I'm a big David fan.
I feel like you love David because he's always paying attention to Shane.
Dude, can you figure out what the fuck you're gonna do? Can you sit down? Can you sit down, please?
All right. Well, while Lizzie's figuring
Okay.
out her relationship with Batman. So
Oh,
during the scene with David and Una and Shane on the couch, when Shane gets up to take Ilya's call, David does notice. He
yeah.
watches Shane get up.
Yep.
Una like keeps looking. Una continues to be like locked in on the screen. Um, that also, I think we talked about last episode where Shane and Ilya's reactions feel very in keeping with their character. I think that also felt very in keeping with their characters to me because to me it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me a lot of the Swedish princess conversation
Mm-hmm.
where Yuna's just like
Full steam ahead.
full steam ahead, locked in on a topic, and
She's rolling over icebergs.
yeah,
And like,
but
David's like
David,
looking over the side. He's like, do we want to stop for some of these? Like, I don't know.
yeah, or like the YouTube unlikely animal friends conversation. You, sorry, Yuna does. She is by no means an absentee parent. She's very focused on her kid. I think she just feels like she knows Shane, and
Yeah.
sometimes she thinks she knows him so well she's not listening.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
David, I think,
I think
is
I think David is
looking at.
making more of like an outright effort to cat hair in my mouth. Of course.
I
I
think he
think
really pays
because
attention.
I think he really pays attention. I think he probably pays attention to Yuna in the same way.
Yeah, I
Like I
think so
think
too.
that is probably their dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And Shane and Yuna are so similar that I think it just like lends itself easily for and also just like Shane and Yuna are not super similar to David, like personality wise. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think inherently David pays more attention to be able to like pick up what's going on because he doesn't think about things the way they do and he doesn't process information the way that they do.
I think he's just very. I think he just is he has just like a lot of quiet observation. Like he's kind of just watching, and
Mm-hmm.
Shane does have some of that tendency too. Shane is always kind of just observing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that yeah, I think he's always very aware of what's going on with Shane and Yuna versus, and I think Yuna is always just so laser focused on the next thing that like sometimes she's missing what's right in front of her. And I think David is a lot better about just being in the moment with Shane.
Yeah.
And I think we
Yeah.
see that here. And I think it's not going to hit Yuna that she does that really until the next episode when she's going to realize that she actually doesn't
She
know her
missed
son nearly as
something.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
She just spends so much time in the series planning
Yeah.
and thinking ahead and trying to predict what's going to happen in the future to be more prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she just does inherently, she doesn't spend as much time in the present as she should. And she realizes she's missed some pretty big signs, but David is not as inclined to thinking about that.
I think Yuna is always so aware of protecting Shane from outside forces. I think she's
Yeah.
always she's trying to like manage his image and manage his relationship with sponsors and all of this stuff. She's very focused on like kind of what's going on around him, that she's missing what's going on like inside Shane. She's focused on all these external factors, but she's not noticing the internal turmoil that is happening with her kid. And she's going to realize that in the next episode, and we'll break that scene down because the way that Yuna plays through that scene, I think is so good. And I think as a parent, me watching that scene, I could see the realization dawning on her and of what she had missed. And It's heartbreaking for both of them because I do think she's a very well-intentioned parent, but she's missing something crucial. And I think whereas David, I think here is noticing something's going on. And I think that looking back, both of them, and I think Yuna especially, Yuna's gonna look back later. She's gonna think of all these moments, like this
Mm-hmm.
moment where she, like the exchange between her and Shane on the couch about Ilya's injury, Ilya showing up at the hospital, the All-Star game, seeing seeing Ilya in the elevator. At some point, all that shit's gonna come back, and she's gonna be like, "God damn it! It was right in front of
This
me, and I missed it."
the signs were
It
there. I
was
just
right
wasn't
in front of
paying
me and I
attention.
missed it. But yeah, speaking of signs being right in front of them and they missed it, one of the other questions, and this person sent in 2 questions. Your other question, hold on, we'll talk about it in the next episode. But this question, they said, do you think any of Shane or Ilya's teammates suspected after seeing Ilya's reaction after the accident and clocking that they were hooking up with someone special when they were in Boston and Montreal, respectively, and saw Shane's reaction in the locker room when Ilya didn't go to Nashville? Do you think that made them suspicious?
I
Um,
think I think Shane's behavior was suspicious, but I don't think that they can put together why it, like, they definitely probably clocked it. He's acting fucking weird, but they're probably just like, Shane's is just kind of a weird dude sometimes.
I think similarly for Ilya. I think that it's one of those things, and we've talked about this before, where a lot of people tend to think very heteronormatively. And I think especially when you have these hockey players who have grown up in this bubble, this hockey
Mm-hmm.
bubble, a lot of them have been in this bubble from a very young age. They haven't been exposed to a lot of other worlds. Like, this is their world. Like, their world is
Mm-hmm.
hockey. They eat, sleep, and drink hockey. And when you are in this bubble and no one around you, as far as you know, is
Mm-hmm.
gay, and
Yeah.
you're just not looking for it
It's
because
like
it's
they're hearing hoof, what is it called? Hearing like hoof beats, and instead of thinking, oh, it's horses, they're like, it's fucking zebras, right? Like, the most logical explanation is that they're together and they like each other, or at least, the very least, they're friends or they're close. But their first response would never be that, ever. Even though
because
that is the most logical explanation, that's not something that they're familiar with. They don't know what the fuck horses are. They only know what zebras are.
yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where we talked about this with Kay, where like
Mm-hmm.
your perception of what is quote normal is based on often what you're surrounded by or like what inputs
Is
you're
also
receiving.
is a perception.
Is a
It's not
perception.
the truth.
No, it's
It's not the
absolutely a
objective
perception.
truth.
Yeah, it's absolutely a perception, and it's shaped by what you're exposed to. It's shaped by what is
Mm-hmm.
around you,
Mm-hmm.
and that shapes your perception and your personal opinion of what is quote unquote normal. And so, if you've lived your whole life in this hockey bubble, and everyone around you is quote unquote straight, and no one is, which they're not, but if that is your perception, then your knee jerk reaction isn't going to be to think something that is
Mm-hmm.
outside what you think is outside your typical realm of possibility. You're going to think, oh, Shane just is being weird about like Rosenoff being there because like he's, well, they're hyper competitive, and like Shane doesn't want to think that Ilya wasn't playing his best last night, and that like that
Just
you're
anything but
gonna
the truth.
excuse it. You're gonna excuse it by what you think is the most. It's like that whole mentality of like the simplest solution is probably the right one, but when you're not aware of that there is an even simpler solution, like you're gonna
Yeah.
go by like what you think is the most likely, and so you're going to substitute the things that you think are most likely, and that might be
Yeah.
completely different for someone else. So I think at this point, probably, I agree with you. I think they identified that the behavior is probably a little strange. I don't think it even enters their consciousness, especially because this is a well-established rivalry that both Shane and Ilya have fed into over the years. It's not even entering their mind that they're in love, in
Oh,
my opinion.
absolutely not. Absolutely.
Now later, similar to David and Yuna, I'm sure a lot of people look back and are like, what the fuck? Like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. But yeah, but I think at the time, probably not. But yeah, sorry, I feel like I cut
Absolutely
you
not.
off.
No. I was just gonna say that, your perception is your perception, and that's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's a perception, but it also, your perception creates your own reality.
Yep.
And that's important
Yep.
to think about. That's important to think about. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure that you do your research and make an effort.
And here's the thing, everybody fucks it up occasionally. Like there's stuff that because that's what we know. Like there's a lot
Mhm.
of things that you might take as a fact, and then you get new. The
You
most
get new
important thing
information.
is that when you get new information, you evolve and you adapt,
Hmm.
and you stay open to learning about different ways of thinking, and that people's lives are different from yours and their perceptions are different from yours. I think it's I think that's how we keep broadening our worldview. And again, the internet can so easily become an echo chamber, but the internet can also so easily become a
Hmm.
way for you to learn about how things are in so many different parts of the world that are different from you. They're different from the small corner of the world that you've grown up in. So I think it's
Hmm.
this thought that like, that this went on for like a decade and nobody noticed. And they're not, here's the thing, Shane and Ilya are not super slick. But
No.
nobody noticed because their
Yeah.
perception is so narrow. And like
Yeah.
this is the thing where it's like they're kind of hiding in plain sight because everybody else
Hmm.
has a completely different point of view.
And
And
yes,
yeah.
yes. I think something else that is along the same lines is that even if you're living in the same place, even if you're not living in the same place, your
Yeah.
perception
Yeah.
is solely your perception. And that's not everybody's perception. So, like, I'm sure, like, in some world, one of the teammates finds out about them and is like, this happens to so many queer people. I don't understand why you're so worried about coming out. You have nothing to worry about. I've not experienced any of this. I don't see why this is such a big deal. You wouldn't, because that's not your reality to live in. You're not queer. You don't, or maybe you are queer, but you exist in a different space that's way more accepting of it. It's just like,
Hmm.
you genuinely cannot know somebody else's experience. You cannot live their experiences. You cannot, just because something isn't perceived to be an issue by you does not mean it is not an issue. And that's the importance of talking to people who experience different things than you and saying, is this an issue for you? If it is, why is it like that? What can alleviate that?
Yeah. I think it's recognizing that our problems do not, our problems, the only problems that should matter to us are not just the ones that exist within our own lives or our own borders or whatever. Borders, all that shit is man-made. We are all just zipping around on this rock in space together, and we all got to help each other out. And like I said, it's important to know what's going on in other people's lives so that you can help, so that you can make the world better for them, and in turn make it better for everybody. Okay, so there was a question that came in, and this has been posted before, and I think that I had saved this for this episode. But the question is, what do you think about Scott putting Kip out there in the public eye like he did? It seems like it's something he chose for both of them right then in the moment. I feel like
Pause, guys.
during.
We
Mhm.
have to remember the conversations that they've had in the past about
Yeah,
Kip being unapologetically who he is, wanting to love someone and love them loudly in public.
yeah.
Like, those are the conversations, and that has been their big pain point, is that Scott didn't want to do that. And so it's not, to me, it's not, is Scott putting Kip on the spot there. That is Scott stepping up and meeting Kip where he's at, to
I
me.
Yeah. No, I would tend to agree. I think if we go back and look at Scott and Kip's episode, I think that Kip is out. Kip is in the sunshine, and he also has been raised by a parent who has taught him to love very loudly.
Mhm.
And you look at Kip's dad, and Kip's dad is very open in his affection, and he has raised and he's very open in talking about that he loves his son and showing his son he loves him and being there for his son and being hugely supportive. Kip has learned from his dad how to love loudly. And Kip is not used to having to diminish himself for that. He's been taught, and not to say that Kip wouldn't have experienced moments where he's come up against some of the darkness that Scott lives in. I'm not saying that at all, but I think that Kip has kind of been able to be raised by someone who taught him to live in the light. And when we see Kip in Scott and Kip's episode, he also has a friend group that is also very much um,
Mhm.
living as themselves. They're all like very supportive of
Mhm.
each other. And when you talk again about like the people you surround yourself with and like what dictates kind of your normal, Kip's normal looks very different from Scott's. And so
Yeah.
I think that what we see in Scott and Kip's episode is that Kip is very much okay with living in the light, and and what kind of drives them apart is that Scott is not yet ready to be there, and him
Mhm.
even going to Kip's birthday party, even though Kip really wants him to be there and asks him to be there, feels like
Mhm.
too much for Scott. I
Yeah.
get the impression that Kip is not terribly worried. I mean, not that he wouldn't be worried, but I get the impression that Kip is very comfortable kind of living in the light, and that's where he wants to stay. And I also think there's probably been some conversations in between them kind of breaking up a little bit because Scott wasn't ready to be in the light, and Kip didn't want to be living his life in the dark. Like I
Yeah.
have to think there's probably been some conversations in between about like this is the reason that they can't
Mhm.
really be together.
Mhm.
He also, when he gets down there, he says to Scott,
You don't
"You
have to
don't
do
have to do
this.
this." He doesn't say, "I don't want to do this," or "We don't
Yeah.
have to do this." He
You
says,
don't have to
"You
do
don't have to
this.
do this." And he does. He comes down there, and like part of the reason why he's up in the stands with Elena and looking out at Scott is that is his place. Kip belongs down on that ice. He belongs there. Now, did
Mhm.
he get thrust into the public eye as part of this? Yeah, but that is
But I
he
think
walked
that
down
that's
there.
something that like Kip knows,
He
right?
knows.
It's
He
like
knows. I agree. He knows that this is
that's
part
what
of loving
comes with
Scott is
publicly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where I think if Kip had a problem with being out in the open, they would have stayed kind
No,
of sneak
they would have been together and hiding
yeah.
together.
Yeah. But I think Kip very much wanted to be out in the light, and I think if Kip wasn't comfortable, like I agree, like he didn't necessarily have to come down to the ice. Now, Scott did put pressure on him to come down because he's like pointing to him and stuff like that. But I very much get the I very much have the perception that this is probably something that has been a reoccurring topic of conversation for them. This is the reason why they're
Mhm.
not together, and it's because Kip is out and Scott is not.
Yeah.
And this is Scott finally saying, like, you know what? Actually, there's nothing more important to me than you, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna let the whole world know. Kip doesn't want to be hidden. Kip's not used to being hidden. He's not used to being
Mm-mm.
having to hide who he loves. And so I think this is definitely the moment where you get to see Scott be like, I'm done living in the dark too.
Mhm.
So now I think during Scott and Kip's episodes, I do think there's moments where like I mean, Scott's an intense guy for sure, but like, and I mean, we talked a lot about the relationship, but I don't feel like it's something he chose for the both of them necessarily. It's like something he like pushed Kip into doing so much as I think it's something that he finally chose them. He finally chose
Mhm.
his his own happiness and Kip's happiness, and was like, actually, I'm done hiding. And but there are going to be there's going to be a lot of pressure that comes with that. Kip is going to be in the public eye now too, but I think that this is a very genre grand gesture, and where I think sometimes there's a little bit of suspension of, we don't always have to think about like what comes next, but I think in this case
Mhm.
it's good. Someone else asked too, in the book, I think they kiss in the penalty box, and in the show they kiss out on center ice, and like what impact does that have? And I actually like that a lot, because I think there is like kind of a subtext of them kissing in the penalty box, like they're in trouble kind of, versus like they're out in the show, they're out at center ice, they're fully in the sun, they're in this moment of glory.
Mhm.
And I dig that. I dig that a lot. Anyway.
I have no thoughts on it.
So, anyway, speaking of Scott and Kip, also somebody commented, do you notice that when Scott is running at the start of episode 5, the background is the same as in episode 3 when he stopped outside Straw and Berry? Obs for scheduling, but that also means that Scott is running to a smoothie. So absolutely he is. He's got to have
Yeah.
that smoothie. Scott
Yeah.
is a creature
I
of
actually
habit.
had almost wondered if that was like the same shot. They just clipped a different portion of it, because his running is as crazy as usual, and it is so similar to that first shot.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just had him. They were filming the
Like just
original
running
shot
for a while.
a couple times, and they're
Mhm.
like, "We'll just use this for another one."
Well, I also think too, because of the thing where Jacob has said that like initially it wasn't meant to be so long in between. If they kind of are like,
Mhm.
shit, we kind of need a connecting shot here. But I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I can see them doing a couple different takes with a couple different outfits in the same spot. Just kind of, yeah, for scheduling, I think it's good. But I also do think it's like Scott, I do think there is this visual cue of Scott is still running in place. He's stuck. He hasn't
Mhm.
progressed. He's still in the same, he's still doing his thing, and he's stuck. And so I think, and then we finally get to see him progress.
Mhm.
There's one question here that I really want to talk about, but I want to save it till the end.
Are we not at the end? How many more
I'm
questions do you
I'm
have?
scrolling real quick.
Oh my
Okay, we talked about that
God.
one.
I can't do much more.
Jeez.
I'm not gonna survive this. I feel like we've done
We
a
talked
lot.
about that. Some of these I am skipping a little bit because I know we've talked a little bit about them on the pod. Oh, do we? Okay. Do we know? So people had asked, and I think we talked about this in the pod. If we think Svetlana knows it's Shane. I think you and I are both team Svetlana knows in the show.
We've talked
Not
about
in the
yeah,
book.
we've
We definitely have talked about this. Do we think that Rose knows about Shane being into Ilya? I think no.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think she would have had as many opportunities
To like
to
witness Shane sneaking
piece it
off.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
To piece it together. She's not seen the texting the way that, because they weren't texting when they were together. She's not seen the
Yeah.
texting that Svetlana
Yeah.
would have seen. She's not caught Shane watching a documentary on Ilya. She's not, so I don't think she has nearly as much evidence.
Mhm.
So I don't think Rose knows. I do think I
Mhm.
absolutely am team Svetlana knows.
I think Svetlana in general spends more time in person with Ilya.
Yeah.
Like it seems like, whereas Shane, when he's spending time with people, it's typically Hayden and
Yeah.
Jackie. And I get the feeling that, I mean, like, Rose is very busy. Shane is very busy. I get the feeling, and I'm not like dissing the closest of their relationship, but I think that they probably just text and call a lot. And when you have a relationship like that, a friendship like that,
Mhm.
you don't get to see all of those like little mannerisms, those little giveaways that would lead you to believe that Shane's like not being truthful about something.
Well, and I think that it's very much this thing of, if Shane, when he's with Rose, he is very much trying to be like, no, I'm the good boyfriend. I mean, he's not
And he
talking.
is, just not
And
for
he is.
her.
And he is a good boyfriend. And it's, he's just in love with someone else, and he's gay. So, but he gives it his best shot. Um, there's one other question about what do we think that Ilya's thoughts are when he's seen Shane walk out the door in Tampa? Because when Shane pauses at the door and he looks back at Ilya and he's like, and Ilya kind of has that goofy smile on his face, and I think Shane even says
He
like,
says
"What?"
good night. Ilya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Shane goes, good night, Shane." I think he's
Said, look
in,
at my man. Look at his ass. It's so
yeah.
tight.
I think it's very much he's looking at Shane and I think he's probably in a little bit of shock. Like they've kind of had this one because they've come back together. He's got Shane back, but also because he started to kind of bare his soul. He didn't fully bear it, but he had an emotional breakdown and nothing bad happened. And
Yes.
in fact, he actually got held and he got a nice smooch and they had fun times after. And,
Yeah.
um, he like nothing bad happened. I think he's almost
No.
looking at Shane like, are you even real?
There's such open affection in their gazes,
Yes.
and the last time I remember seeing, well, I think you see it very briefly when they're at the bar in Tampa and Ilya starts laughing. I think you see it like shine through a little bit there, and then I think you see it when they're on the couch
Yeah.
on Tuna Melt Day as well. But they're gazing at each other with such open affection and adoration, and you have to think that that's got to be so freeing because the other times it's been like not unreciprocated, but we don't know if it's reciprocated. It feels unrequited to them because they
Mm-hmm.
have not had the conversation with each other yet. And so it
Yeah.
feels like they're sneaking like soft glances at each other. But at this point, they know that they are more or less on the same page. And to share like a look like that and to like
Mm-hmm.
have it returned, and it's just like Ilya saying goodnight and using Shane's name and Shane reciprocating it and saying like in a very soft and sweet voice like good night Ilya, like holy shit, like that's got to be such an insane feeling for both of them, but I think for Ilya in particular.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is like, I just don't even think he can believe it. I mean,
Dude, I didn't believe it.
I think he's, I think
I
he's
still
like,
don't believe it.
he's like, this is like best case scenario. And like, I think
Yeah.
you have to think of like how many times Ilya's been let down. And like, I mean,
Ugh.
I mean, the fact that he has like, I mean, when he starts crying, he apologizes. And he's like, I'm sorry. He gets comforted, he gets kissed, he gets the love of his life back. He
He
gets to
gets
have
rocked. He
he gets
gets
his
rocked
he gets rocked,
comfortingly.
and then he gets his world rocked. They like there's like ginger ale on the nightstand. I mean, they had they had a night together where they finally got to decompress and like find each other again
Mm-hmm.
after the hell that has been the last few months. And thinking of like how much Ilya has over this time span been like, I'm never gonna get him back. He's gonna fuck off with Rose Landry, and I'm never gonna get him back. And I've lost the only thing that I've ever really
Mm-hmm.
let myself kind of want. And then now it's like, and he wasn't even really letting himself want Shane. So I mean, I think he is
Mm-hmm.
looking at Shane with, I agree with you. I think it's such open adoration. I think it's disbelief. It's almost just like, I can't even believe you're real. And I think that from that point on, I mean, Ilya is a goner, and I mean, not that he wasn't before, but I mean, it's Shane. Shane goes in with a plan and he executes that plan to
He
perfection. And
executes.
baby boy does not miss a step. And I like,
He said, "That's a
speaking of,
set play, and I
speaking
know
of
how to
feral
run that shit."
cats, Ilya is fully, is fully brought into the house by the end. I mean, he is, God bless. God bless. So, anyway, okay. We've been chatting. We've been talking for a little bit. We got to a lot of the questions, guys. I know we didn't get to all of them, and I apologize. There's one more I want to get to at the end. If we didn't get to your question, please drop it when we do the next round of listener questions. But there's one question at the end that I just would love to get up on my soapbox about for a second. So, This person writes in, not really a question, I guess, but I would love to hear your opinions. Obviously, Ilya is a consent king, and the show is very good and safe. But I've read lots of discourse that it's like the female gaze and non-realistic from men, etc. Just wondering what's your take specifically. Love you guys. I love you too. Can I?
Is this gonna bum me out? Is this gonna bum me
Can
out?
I? No,
Okay.
it's not gonna bum you out. Can I speak on this? Can I?
Speak on it.
Okay.
Speak on it.
As a romance author, now, okay. Are there things in romance novels that are unrealistic? Yeah. There are.
Babes, that ain't one of them.
Human decency and compassion is not one of them. But yeah, here's the thing. Are there things in romance novels that are unrealistic? Yeah. Yeah, there are. There absolutely are. There's things that wouldn't happen
He's not
like
gonna
that.
have two dicks.
He's not gonna have two dicks. He's not gonna it's if it's so big that you can't quite even make your hand fit around
You're not
it,
gonna
that's gonna put you in the hospital.
him through your stomach. That's not something that's gonna happen.
Like, listen, you're probably not gonna feel him in your throat. If you do, I do think you should probably go to the hospital.
Concerning,
It's concerning.
girls.
It's concerning. Listen, live your life. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but
a guy asking before he touches any part of you is not the unrealistic piece of this, guy. The bar is in hell.
The bar is in hell. Here's the thing. So, do I think that there are unrealistic things in romance novels? Yeah, absolutely. They're fiction. There's unrealistic things in all fiction. That is not limited to romance novels. That is why they are fiction. Now, do I think that showing kindness and thoughtfulness, someone who is concerned for your needs, someone who wants to take care of you, and all of these other things that here's the thing. The entirety of Threads in the last week has lost their mind over
the Wicker Man.
Over the Wicker Man. He's no, granted,
because he dicked her down and then he fixed the bed after. That's all it takes, guys.
And he's like, I'll fix the bed, don't even worry about it. And granted, it is Alexander Skarsgård under there, so that feels a little unfair. But what is a common theme in romance novels is compassion and care and being seen as a person. And that is not an unrealistic standard to want to have a partner in your life that gives you the same care and consideration that you were willing to offer them. That is not unrealistic. And men saying it's unrealistic, that the ones who are, and not all of them are, but the ones who are, that is a translation for, I don't really want to do the work. I only want it to be about me. And if a guy is telling you that is unrealistic, then
girls,
be away from him.
Dump him. Date me instead.
Dump him. If compassion and consideration and caring about your needs and making you feel seen as a person feels unrealistic to him, show him the fucking door. Show him the door. He is not worthy of you. I had a woman in my life give me a really good piece of advice very early on, and it wasn't even specifically about romance, but she said, start as you mean to go on. Set the bar and let people rise to it.
You're not gonna change them. They're not gonna get better. You're not gonna settle into it. He's not gonna all of a sudden start caring about you more.
No.
Guys.
Set the bar, and anybody who falls under it, sorry, they are not tall enough to ride this ride.
Fucking dump them.
Set the bar. Dump them. You are worthy of having someone in your life that makes you feel seen and makes you feel loved. You are worthy of that. And if someone is telling you that is an unrealistic expectation, then that might just be unrealistic for them because they're not willing to care about someone other than themselves. That is not unrealistic for you.
Mm-hmm.
Set the bar high and keep it there. Because here's the thing. It's the expectation, the bar is never going to get higher if we keep letting it exist in hell. If we keep giving cop-outs to say well, it's unrealistic. If we keep allowing that type of discourse, all that tells them is that, yeah, it is unrealistic. No, set the bar high and make them meet it. And that goes both ways. Like, also, like show your partner the same amount of compassion and consideration that you would want from them. It should go both ways. It should absolutely go both ways. The bare minimum, care and consideration is the bare minimum. Now, are there things in romance novels that are unrealistic? Yes, but
Yeah,
that's
but
not one
like,
of
who
them.
the fuck wants to read about things that really happen sometimes? You know,
No.
sometimes it's, you gotta suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. So, that's my soapbox. I'm
Did
tired.
you watch Dracula: A Love Tale?
No, not yet. I haven't yet.
Okay, you haven't watched it. Fuck you.
But I know I will. I know it's on my
I
list.
am looking to love and to be loved like those two.
Mhm.
And that's it. If you guys haven't seen that, it's so good. I love the whole, like, Dracula has been known forever as the villain, and it's like the why he is that way.
Mhm.
And I love that for him.
We love that for him.
But that is also an example. There were clips of him going like viral because the way he looks at her, God.
Yeah.
It's like he's seeing God. It's like he's seeing God. And there's a very specific scene in which like he shows up in her room in the middle of the night and she goes, "Leave." And he goes, "Yes, ma'am." Jumps off the balcony. I was like, that's what we need to see. And he goes, "I've waited 300 years for you. If you don't want me to be here, I will not be here." And I said,
No.
"Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what we like to see.
Yeah.
That's what we like to see. I like that." And then she goes, "I like that too." And she goes, "Come back here, give me a smooch." And that's how that goes. Okay? You get rewarded.
That's how that goes. Reward good behavior. But no, I mean, yes. Regardless of gender, it's care and compassion for your partner. It should never feel like an unrealistic standard. Consent should never feel like an unrealistic standard. It should. You should never, nobody should want to be with someone that's not as into it and down for it as they are. It's just not
Real.
But I get very, that term, like, non-realistic in terms of it being applied to romance novels, I think is often applied as a way to belittle the genre as a whole, when the genre is very important. And it's there for a lot of reasons. It's there to give us something that is a guaranteed happy ending in a world that doesn't always end up that way. But it's also there to give us representation in a lot of cases of a lot of different types of love and to make us feel less alone in the world. But the non-realistic, the only thing I ever hear when that is, "I don't want to try hard. I don't want to put in the work." And if they don't want to put in the work, then show them the door. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that's my 2 cents on it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having high standards, especially when the standards are basic human decency.
It's like not even like having like,
I know.
you tell me,
Is that even a
you're
high
like, you have
standard?
high standards. I'm like, I feel like I don't actually have high standards. I think I just have standards.
I don't tell you that.
You say I have a low tolerance for bullshit.
That's different. I think your standards are exactly where they should be.
Well,
Do have a low
I'm not saying that they're too high. I'm
No.
not saying that they're too
Yeah.
high. But it's like,
Yeah, but you do have a low tolerance for bullshit, and I love that about you. I think that's one of your greatest qualities, is that you have a very low tolerance for bullshit.
okay, fine.
But no, I think that I think that this show would not have resonated the way it had if it didn't speak to, I think, something in a lot of different people about, like, the way we want to be seen and the way we want to be treated and the way we want to be loved. And that love can look a lot of different ways, but the common denominator in a lot of romance, not all, like, there's some dark romance, and I'm not disparaging that genre at all, but, like, one of the unifying factors generally in romance is that, like, it's people choosing to see each other for who they are and love each other for who they are and just as they are.
Mhm.
And that should not be unrealistic.
Hell no.
That should not be an unrealistic
If people
standard.
take issue with that and like you feel like ashamed or like you maybe don't want to be open about what you read or what content you consume or like what your desires are, that says a lot more about them as a person than it does about you. Like they're
Yes. Yeah.
like they're a little ugly on the inside for that.
There is
It's a
so
reflection.
I write romance novels. Not everybody in my real life knows that I write romance novels. That choice of whether or not they know says a lot more about my relationship with them
It's
than it
the
does
chill
whether or not.
meter. It's like, are you cool enough to fuck with this? And if
Well,
not, I'm just not going to tell you because it's
and
not worth it.
it's also more of a like I've seen a lot of the people in my life do know, but like I think that it's
Mhm.
one of those things where I'm not going to tell someone that I don't think is going to take it as seriously as I do. Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna tell somebody that I know is gonna make me feel bad about it or try to make me feel bad.
absolutely not.
So like, like you don't owe anybody anything, but it's also
Mm-mm.
like your standards are your standards, and it is absolutely good to ask for what you deserve.
But also, if you say that shit out loud, say it with your fucking chest. Don't be ashamed of that shit.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, and I said I talk about smut on this podcast with my sister, and they get scared. The bigots and the fucking weirdos, they get scared when you're so unapologetically about what the fuck you're about. Okay?
Yeah.
I said, we talk about gay things. We talk about gay things and smut and liberalism. And they were just like, oh. And I'm like, okay, so you're not going to say any shit. But if I had been like, yeah, I mean, we talk about, like, if I like beat around the bush, they would have been like trying to joke with me about it. But if you stand 10 toes down on business, like, what the fuck are they going to say to you?
Uno reverse that shit.
Uno reverse that
Uno
shit.
reverse that shit.
Like like assert your dominance genuinely, because if you act like it's normal, they can't disrupt that, right? Like we're creatures like of community. If you say it like it's no big deal, it becomes not a big deal. And
Yeah.
that's just what it is.
No, my thing is I spent 13 years in Catholic school. I have a lot of there's a lot of stuff that I did not figure out and that my version of what was normal. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
exposed to until I left my small town and my very small Catholic school and I went to college at a big university, and then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that the world is in fact quite bigger and that
Bigger and gayer.
I spent a really long time being told one way, and then I got out and I realized that there is not just one way, and that was incredibly freeing. But I think that my stance is always that like I spent 13 years being taught to be ashamed, and I won't do it to myself now. But anyway, I could go on and on about romance novels, the importance of the romance genre, and we could take a whole nother podcast on that, and we've been talking for over 2 hours. So we're gonna cut it here. But thank you guys again. I think this is probably a record for number of questions sent in. I know we didn't get to all of them.
I felt like we were doing good.
Thank you guys so much again for all the questions. I know we didn't get to all of them, but we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys as listeners. Appreciate how many of you guys hopped in the comments last week and talked about that, where you are, how you came across the show, how you're loving the things that you love loudly, and it's just really cool to see that. We got some cool email. I gotta send you. There's a couple cool emails that we got this week too. I gotta forward those over to you. Someone did DM us and they said they'll send you chocolate.
Oh, thank you. And you know exactly, whoever it is, you know exactly what I want. We know. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna give him my PO box, and then you can.
And then I'll be up and I'll get it.
Yeah.
I will eat it on the pod, but I'll probably actually eat it before that. Because I love that shit.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys. You guys are the best. We love you guys. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We love you. Next week.
Holy shit. I have a new episode to watch for for the first time in forever, cue the Frozen music.
Next week, we're going to the cottage. We got to spend some time talking about Ilya's walk-up outfit because I think we were robbed on how little screen time the backwards hat got. But anyway, I digress. The Anyway, so excited to go to the cottage with you guys. Next week, we're going to the cottage. Fucking pumped. Yeah, but have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Kelly,
guys.
bye.
Love you.